What's going on, YouTube? This is SB3, and I am back with another episode of PanicREVV. If you missed the first episode or you missed the 250 Supercross East class, go give it a watch and tell me your thoughts. But I'll give you a quick breakdown of how it's going to work, just in case you missed that episode. So PanicREVV, I'm going to do an analysis, a PanicREVV analysis after every residency, and it's going to be basically rating people from 1 to 3 on based off of where they're sitting out of the championship, how their last couple of races have gone, and seeing if they need to be panicked or not. And it's basically just going to be breaking down as we get closer to championship, the end of the season. I want to break it down with less riders, but obviously with this being the first time I'm doing this and having a plethora of riders that are that are top level talent, I'm going to break it down with a lot more riders than what I normally would. But if you guys have specific riders that you want to see more in-depth coverage on, let me know down in the comments below, and I'll make sure to give you some more insight on my thoughts on their races, or insight on how I think their season's going, things I need to think they need to change, and stuff like that. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to start off with the new points leader, Ken Roxon. He started off the season with a second place, solid. He came back, had a little bit of a rough night where he ended up getting docked points, and he came back with a fifth. And then last weekend, he came out with a second place. A lot of people thought that he should have won the race. I'm going to try to leave controversies out of it as much as I can. But I'll talk more about it once I get to the rider that was involved with it. But I have him at a level 2, minimal panic. And the only reason he should be panicking at this point is he has gotten beaten twice. So Justin Barcia came out. I mean, obviously, he's going to have the confidence coming into the season opener that he's won the last 2, and that gives him a confidence high that you may not have in another week or whatever it may be. So that one makes more sense to me. And then, not wanting to run it into Bam Bam the first round makes sense to me as well, because he doesn't want to create an enemy at the first round of the series. But he got beat straight up by Justin Barcia. And then Cooper Webb took advantage of a situation and was able to get the win. He was closing in on him. I don't personally think he would have caught him by the end of that lap if certain things hadn't played out. But that's just the way it works sometimes. I mean, Cooper Webb's always been very, very good at taking advantage of certain situations and being able to maximize that opportunity. So can't blame Coop for that, but you got to feel for Ken a little bit. But that's the reason I think he should be panicking, is Cooper Webb coming from behind, and regardless of what happened within that situation, Cooper Webb beat him again on the last lap. So I think that's going to take some of the wind out of his sails, or he's going to come back even more pissed off, and he's going to come out and shut everybody down. One of those things is going to happen. He's either going to get beat, and it's going to deflate his sails, and he's going to start seeing a backward momentum, or he's going to come out and he's going to win because he's pissed. And I mean, I think he should be with the situation, but consistency has been his friend. He's been able to keep it inside the top 5 every round, which is good, because a lot of the riders have been lacking that consistency. So it's good for him, and it gets him to the point where even with his points being taken away at round 2, he was still able to come out and grab the points lead. If certain things had played out a certain way, if he hadn't lost those points at round 2, and if he wouldn't have gotten passed by Cooper Webb, he'd have an 8-point advantage over Justin Barcia versus a 1-point advantage. But it is what it is. Moving on to second place is Justin Barcia. So Justin Barcia started off the season about as good as you can start it. He became, I think, the second rider in history to win 3 season openers in a row. So he started off with that win. Had an issue with his bike, supposedly, that got him in 9th place at H2. I guess his clutch lever broke, and that cost him to have to run around at some portion of the race in first gear. And he was able to fight back and get a 4th place. If I'm Justin Barcia, I would have myself at I'd be panicking a little bit, because he's falling back into that same rut that he was in these last 2 years, where he gets one race win and then he's done. I would say it's a little less of a panic than maybe in previous seasons, because he was able to fight back and get a 4th place in round 3, and he looked good. He didn't look like he was struggling. He didn't look like he was having issues with the bike. It looked like he was round 1 Barcia without the start. So I mean, if that's The only thing he needs to do to kind of solidify himself as a consistent title threat this season is he needs to come out and he needs to win another race, or he needs to get a second place. He needs to be up on that podium again in order to kind of staple his name on there and say, hey, I'm actually a title threat this year. Versus previous seasons, he gets that one race where he gets the win, and then he has a couple decent races, and then he just kind of falls off. He needs to get another win. I think more for his confidence than the fans' confidence, because I think he's got a good chance of being a title threat this season. Maybe not all the way to the end of the season, but he's got a good chance of being up there for a good chunk of that season. So we're gonna move on to the number 3 rider. Not the number 3, the number 2 rider, but he's sitting third place in the championship, and that's Cooper Webb. And I've got him at a level 1. I mean, he's got no panic. If I'm Cooper Webb, I'm not panicking at all. He has started off the season with a 9th place, went to 4th, and then 1st. So he's had probably the best turnaround to a season that you could have. And he's gotten better with every round, and some people are going to question his win because of what happened, the circumstances that were specifically around that win. But to Coop, a win's a win. He may not have liked the way he got the win, but that's still going to give him the momentum. He's still leaving with the most amount of points in that race specifically. So being able to leave with the most amount of points, that's going to shift the momentum not solely to him, but he's going to have momentum over the points leader, which is Ken Roczen. Specifically because he passed him and beat him in the last round before they're coming into Indianapolis 1. So I think that's going to give Cooper more of a mental advantage over, say, Kenny. Do I think Coop's going to come out and win round 4? Maybe. I think if he gets a good start, or if Kenny's out front, then that's going to give him that little carrot in front of him to chase after him. But to keep his momentum going in his favor, he's going to have to win Indianapolis. He's going to have to back up that win, and he's going to have to get another win. He's going into Indianapolis with the momentum in terms of he beat the guy that's the points leader, and everybody else is kind of rebounding off of less than perfect rides. So moving on to 4th place, we've got the number 1, the defending champ of Eli Tomac. Tomac didn't have such a hot start to the season. He came out and got 13th after getting into Vince Freeze twice. And then he came back at H2 and he won. It wasn't blazing speed. It wasn't a Tomac charge that we've seen in the past, but it was consistent. He rode the track better than I think anybody else did. And when I say he was riding it better, he wasn't riding it faster, but he understood that the sand section and after seeing Cianciarulo go down and seeing Sexton go down, he sees them make the mistakes in the sand. So I think he made this mid-race adjustment, which is something he may not have done in the past, and he was able to make a mid-race adjustment and win. He had a little bit of pressure coming from Osborne back behind, but he adjusted again, and he was able to pull a little bit back out. Osborne ended up making a mistake, and then he won the race. He came back. It was kind of a quiet 5th for Tomac this last race, so for me, I've got him at a 2.5 for moderate panic. He had a pretty bad start to the season, like I said, and then he got a top 5 finish, which it's consistent, and I think consistency is going to be a huge factor in this season, more so than it's been in previous seasons, because when you can go 1 to 9 for the same rider in multiple riders, I mean, Cooper got round 1, he got 9th, and then by round 3 he's winning. Justin Barcia, he gets a 1st and then a 9th. So it's showing that the depth in the field is going to be a lot harder over the course of the season until people start getting hurt. So consistency is going to be king here, more so than what it's been in previous seasons. So I think if Tomac is going to be a consistent title threat to the end of the season, he needs to maintain this level of consistency. He definitely needs to get more wins. He definitely needs to get more podiums. But being a consistent top 5 guy, consistently week to week, is going to be paramount when it comes to the end of that title, because there's going to be riders that are getting a 4th place, a 2nd, a 10th, a 12th, a 15th, and it's really going to make it's going to make the season really interesting, because people can't, somebody who gets 1st one week may get 15th the next race. It's just a lot of different elements, and I think consistency is going to be Eli Tomac's best friend here, more so than like raw speed. That being said, he's got to get his starts worked out too. If he continues coming through the pack and he's coming across that line in 10th, 11th, 12th, he's not going to win the title. He is my personal title pick for the 2021 season, but I'm realistic in the sense that if he can't get his starts dialed in, he's not going to win this championship. And I think that's going to be the starts is what he's got to dial those in, because even if he's getting fifth or fourth every race, if the guys that are beating him are continuously getting better starts than him, he's not going to be able to catch and pass them every race. But yeah, we're going to move on to the fifth place position, which is Adam Cianciarulo on the number 9. He started off the season with a 4th place, followed it up with a 12th, and then had a 3rd place finish at Houston 3. And if I'm Adam Cianciarulo, I'm probably sitting at a 2 on the panic scale, so I'm not going to be freaking out about the way the season started. He had a 4th place, which it's good. Being inside the top 5 is really a good start to the season, especially for your sophomore season. And then that crash in Houston 2 really put him back. He ended up finishing 12th, and then he was able to bounce back and have a 3rd place finish. So to me, that keeps me from having, if I'm Adam Cianciarulo, being able to bounce back after a 12th place finish and get a podium is going to really put me in a better headspace, because it says, okay, well, that 12th place was probably just a fluke. He crashed, but he wasn't really able to make up any ground and get back to the front of the field like he had maybe last year. So I'm a little worried if I'm Adam Cianciarulo, but I'm not freaking out. I'm not super panicked where I'm like, I got to get this stuff turned around. I've got to figure out what's going on. The only thing I would be worrying about with Adam Cianciarulo is throughout his Supercross career is his consistency in terms of keeping the bike on 2 wheels. He needs to get that figured out. He needs to have a situational awareness where if he's not as fast as Tomac or Cooper or whoever's in front of him and he can't catch them, he has that mentality where he wants to catch them and pass them, which every racer does. But I think as Adam gets older, he's going to start to realize that he can take that 4th or 5th, lose a couple points here, but then 6-7 rounds down, if he can continuously beat them, I think that's going to help him immensely if he can get that figured out in the racing mindset. Having that thought out in your head is one thing, but being able to be like, okay, I got this. It's a little different. And I mean, that being said, the top 5, really, what is it? The top 8 are separated by 10 points. So I mean, it's really close overall. So saying this stuff isn't necessarily like if Cianciarulo doesn't figure this out next week, he's going to be out of the title fight, because everybody is really, really condensed right now. Everybody's really close in the championship fight. So he's got to balance it a little bit, and none of these guys should really be panicking at this point, because we're going at round 4, and if you're in the top 8, you're fine. You're a little bit out of the championship, but you're not far away and gone. But we're going to move on to 6th place, which is Malcolm Stewart. Malcolm Stewart was a late addition to the Star Racing Yamaha team, and I'll be honest, I'm surprised at how he's been doing this season. I know he's always had the raw speed. I know he's always been really, really good in the whoops, but he hasn't been able to put it together for a full season. And I mean, it was rough, because I like Malcolm Stewart as a person. Like, seeing him do these interviews, he's a personality that you don't really see in Supercross anymore, and he just wasn't able to put it together. And seeing him come through and just adjust to this new bike, I've got him at a level 1. No panic. He's on a new bike, a new team, so he's going to be doing some adjustments throughout the season as he gets comfortable on the bike. And I mean, I don't care what you say. If you're going to a new team, you generally can't gel immediately with that bike where you're doing a race win, unless you're Christian Craig. But I think in the 450 class, it doesn't happen very often where somebody can switch teams in the off season and then come out and be immediately like a title threat. Ken Roxon's one of the exceptions to that rule, but Mookie, I'm expecting him to be consistent. I mean, his finishes through the 3rd round have been a 5.76, so he's been consistently inside of the top 10. He's been hovering around that 5th place, so that's really, really good for him. If he can keep it up, and I mean, he continues to get those 5th, 6th, 7th places, he's going to have no panic through the rest of the season. I think he needs to get through the entire season before he can really be like, okay, cool. Build off of a top 5 season, and let's go for podiums and wins next season. Moving on to the number 7th spot. The 7th spot in the rankings is Justin Brayton, the number 10. And he's had a solid season so far. I mean, he came out to Houston, won with the 6th place, followed it up with a podium, his first podium in 3 years, and then last race was 10th place. So if I'm Justin Brayton, level 1, no panic. I'm not really worried. To my knowledge, he is riding the same bike that he won his Australia Supercross titles on, which was the Penrite Honda. But now it's been transitioned to the Muck-Off Honda. So to my understanding, it's the same exact bike, just different sponsors. But if I'm Justin Brayton, I'm not worried. He's coming out, he's 36 or 37 now, so he's getting a little up there in age. And the fact that he's able to contend for podiums and top fives and things like that, that's amazing for him. So, I mean, I couldn't be worried about it. If he can start up front, the only thing I guess that would be concerning to me is that I'm getting passed by people throughout the race. I mean, and he can't really fight back. But all things considered, he's having an awesome season. And I mean, being 36 or 37 and being able to perform at that high of a level with the younger guys still up there. I mean, you think about it, he's got how many people behind him right now that are years and years younger than him. So I think he's the oldest rider out there this year. I think. Maybe. But we'll move on to the 8th place position, which is Dylan Ferrandis, the number 14. And he's had a good rookie start. Good start to his rookie season. And, he started off the season with, a 7th place. He followed it up with a 2nd. And then he had a 12th last race. So, again, level 1, no panic. I'm not really worried if I'm Dylan Ferrandis. He's learning how to ride this 450 machine. He had some time off the bike because of an injury prior to the start of the season. So he's playing a little bit of catch-up right now. And I don't know how much I think he hurt his wrist or his hand. I don't know how much that hindered him in his preparation for getting ready for his 450 class debut, but I'd say coming out at the 2nd round and getting a podium, it's a good turnaround. If I'm Star Racing Yamaha, I'm locking this guy in for a multi-year deal. If they just signed him to a 1-year deal, I'm going to be re-signing him as quickly as I can. But I'm not worried. If he continues to learn and grow and be consistently up there and get his starts a little bit more ironed out, that's the only thing I'd be panicking about if I were Dylan Ferrandis. He wasn't known for his starts in the 250 class, but he was able to plow through and get through everybody and win the races. He's probably not going to be able to do that in the 450s, so I would say if there's anything that he can work on and anything that I would be panicking about, not panicking necessarily, but concerned about going into the 450s is getting those starts dialed, because if the 250s, if Dylan Ferrandis got the whole shot, I mean, it was pretty much over. And even if it was a bad start, he was still able to march through the field and still get the podium or a win. I don't think he's going to be able to do that in the 450, so he's got to get the starts ironed out a little bit. But again, coming in as a rookie, he's doing phenomenal. So we'll move on to the other Frenchman in the class. 9th place is Marvin Musquin. He started off the season with a 3rd place, so came back after missing a year of Supercross and got on the podium. Blew all my expectations out of the water. He did follow it up with a 6th place, and then last race he did get a 13th. So I don't know. I feel for Marv because he's coming back from missing all of Supercross, every bit of it last season. So everything is new to him this year. So these, the COVID standards as far as Supercross goes, this is all new to him. So doing these 3 races a week, I'm sure he started off fresh, and I honestly think if we were on a normal schedule, he probably would have been okay in terms of getting better finishes, because he's probably a little bit tired coming in from racing on a Saturday, a Tuesday, and then a Saturday again. So 3 rounds in 1 week is considerably more racing than doing the once a week, obviously. But I'm sure he's probably a little tired, but he's on my scale personally, I've got him at a level 3, and the only reason I'm doing that is that's a max panic. His contract, I believe, is up at the end of Outdoors, or his contract runs through this season, and I think he's in a contract season, and I don't personally see KTM renewing a contract with him if he can't come out and be the old Marvin that he was. He's either 29 or 30 years old, and minus a couple of race wins, he hasn't really done anything in the 450 class. He's been up there. He's been a consistent title threat every single season, but he hasn't been able to get it done. So I don't know how much longer KTM is going to continue re-signing a contract for Marvin if he isn't able to produce more wins or a championship. And that sucks because Marvin's a nice guy. He seems like he loves the sport, but with these newer guys coming up from the 250s, you got young talent coming in. I don't know if there's going to be a place for Marvin at Red Bull KTM if he can't find a way to move up in the positions. He's got the consistency to be a championship contender, but he just hasn't been able to get it done, unfortunately. So if his season goes bad to where he doesn't at least do top 3 or top 4, does he have a contract next season? Does he go back to KTM? Because my personal belief on the situation is if KTM doesn't re-sign Marvin Musquin, I think he's going to retire. I think he walks away from Supercross as soon as KTM doesn't offer him a contract. And he's 29, 30 years old, so he's getting to the point where teams are going to start looking at younger investments versus having a solid second B guy. When Cooper Webb came over to KTM, they really looked at Marvin to be the A guy, and then he just didn't perform to the level that Cooper Webb did, and Cooper Webb immediately took Ryan Dungey's spot, and Marvin Musquin went right back to being the B guy, which that stinks because I like Marvin. He talks a lot, but he seems like a genuine person, and despite some of his antics on track, I think he's good for the sport. He's a mostly clean rider, and he's fun to watch. He's got a very fluid style that it doesn't look like he's trying very hard, and he's very, very technical. So don't know where Marvin's going to end up if the season doesn't go in a little bit better fashion as previous seasons have, but I'm rooting for the guy. Number 10 or 10th place is going to be Zach Osborne. He's had a pretty consistent season in terms of where he's finished. He's got 2 10ths and then a 9th. For me, I've got him at a moderate panic, which is, it's not technically a rating, but I've got him at a 2.5. But he rode great at Houston 1. Ended up finishing 10th after I think he was on the ground in the first turn, or he was back in the standings initially at Houston 1. So round 2, he was in a podium position, and it looked like he was catching Tomac a little bit. He was definitely gaining ground. Whether or not Tomac was backing off or whatever it is, I guess is something I'll never know. To me, it looked like Osborne was catching him, but then Tomac would pull it back out. So I don't know where that was at. But Osborne was in second, and he made a mistake. He crashed out, and he ended up, I think, finishing 10th. And then he finished with a 9th place. So not sure what's going on with Zacho, but he's not riding up to the potential that I really pegged him at. I thought after coming off of the outdoor motocross title and coming off of the Supercross, the Salt Lake City win, I really expected more out of him. I expected him to be at least a top 5 guy. And when I say a top 5 guy, I mean actually like finishing in the top 5, not running the race in the top 5 and then falling out. So I don't really know what's going on with Zacho, but he's got to get something figured out if he's going to get some better results and go through, because he's not on the younger side either. I think he's 30 or 31, so he's right around Marvin Musquin's age. I don't know how his contract is set up. I don't know if he's going into a contract season, but if I'm Zach Osborne, I've got to get Supercross turned around and start getting a little bit more consistent and trying to figure some of that stuff out. But we'll move on to the 11th place rider, which is Aaron Plessinger. He finished 8th at the first round, 16th at the second round, and 7th at the last round. Same thing. I've got him at a max, so level 3 max panic, and primarily because Aaron talked about being a whole new Aaron Plessinger coming into this season, and to me, I haven't really seen it. He's had a little bit more flashes of speed in terms of being on in the heat races specifically, but he just hasn't had the consistent finishes with the main events, and I don't know. I think he's in a contract year as well, and I don't think Yamaha's going to have a ride with the likes of Jeremy Martin and Christian Craig potentially moving up to the 450 class next season. So I don't think he's going to have a ride unless he can get things squared away. And Same thing as kind of like Mookie. I mean, Aaron Plessinger is a fun character, but he's got to get these finishes sorted out. He's got to figure out how to get these finishes to where he can start up front and stay up front. And I think that's his biggest issue is he doesn't have the pace for the full 20 minutes to stay in the top 5. And that stinks because he's a Supercross and an outdoor champion, and it's just this 450 class has not been kind to him since he's been here. I think if he can get through this season without having an injury, and he can continue to improve and kind of show his stock value, I mean, I think Star Racing might give him another year contract, but if it's more of the same, I don't see Yamaha keeping him. But moving on to the number 12th place rider, it's going to be Dean Wilson, number 15. He had a 12th place and then 2 11ths. I've got him at a moderate panic. In terms of consistency, he's been pretty consistent with his finishes. Injury, I just saw on his Instagram that he has a swollen foot. I think it was something with the shifter, and I don't know exactly what happened, but his foot was swollen all to hell. So I don't know if he's going to miss around. I didn't read the whole post, but if he's going to be missing more than 1 or 2 rounds, I'm got him at a full-on panic because it's another injury for Dean Wilson, and unfortunately, I don't know how many more chances he's going to get on factory equipment. Obviously, mixed in with everything else that happened last week and kind of the way that he's being viewed right now. I mean, I don't personally hold a grudge towards Dino, but there's a lot of fans that do. I think what happened with Dino was stupid, but it was a stupid move on his part. But I watched, I think, the Pulp MX show, and he explained himself a little bit more, and I got it. I mean, to me, stuff happens, and he's human, so he's going to make these mistakes every once in a while, and it sucks, but it happens. So I don't hold any grudge or anything like that against Dino, but I think with that situation and then the not inconsistency, but his poor finishes and the injury, I just don't see Rockstar Energy offering him another seat unless he can pull something together and start getting these consistent finishes, because he's had issues getting through these seasons healthy, and I don't know how many more chances he's got at a factory ride with it. So hopefully he can get some stuff squared away and get some positive results out so he can move up the standings and again, kind of like Aaron Plessinger, show the value of his stock personally. 13th is going to be Jason Anderson, the number 21, 2018 champion. And he ran 15th the first race, 8th and an 8th. If I'm Jason Anderson, I'm at a level 3. I'm panicking. I'm freaking the hell out because he's a previous champion, but he hasn't finished inside the top 5 yet. I believe he's in a contract season or contract year as well. And I don't really know what to say to Jason Anderson, because he just hasn't looked like the 2018 champion that we saw. I mean, he's clearly, I didn't picture him being a 13th place or an outside the top 5 rider, but that's what he's been this season, and truthfully, he hasn't been anywhere close to his 2018 run, and I don't know what to expect. I would imagine, since Anderson's been with the Rockstar Energy Suzuki KTM Husqvarna team his entire career, I don't see him going anywhere unless Bobby Hewitt opens up a spot on a team or creates his own team or whatever he might do. I don't see him switching teams, and I don't see Rockstar Energy Husqvarna letting him leave, because in terms of like the Rockstar Energy Husqvarna pipeline, there's not a whole lot of solid stock there. But it's a little bit of a puzzling year if I'm Jason Anderson. I'm a little confused. I'm a little concerned. Actually, I'm a lot concerned if I'm Jason Anderson, because what do you do? You know what I mean? But we'll move on. 14th place rider is going to be the number 17 of Joey Savacci, and he ran 11th, a 21st, and then a 14th. And if I'm Joey Savacci, I'm in a max panic. Level 3, he's got to get better starts, and he's got to start proving he deserves to have a ride. He's been injured a lot, minus his rookie season. He's been injured pretty much ever since. And he missed all of Supercross because of an injury in the preseason, before he made his debut with Suzuki, and then by luck or whatever may have happened with Blake Baggett and Rocky Mountain KTM, he was able to land the second ride at that team. So going back to his roots in a sense, I was excited to see what was going to happen with Joey Savacci in terms of like, was he going to be the rookie that he was? Was he going to have the same level of riding that he had whenever he was a rookie, where he would start up front and he was able to fight with some of the better riders? And you know, Joey Savacci hasn't gotten a top 10 yet. And I mean, that stinks because the kid had a lot of promise, and he's just not, he can't seem to stay healthy, and I'm not really sure what to expect out of him now that he's hurt, because, you know, he crashed out around 2, finished 21st, and then he came back for a 14th. And I don't like that trend because he's coming back injured. And if he continues to get these poor results, it's like, where is he going to be at the end of the season? I believe he signed a 1-year contract with Rocky Mountain, so barring if Baggett comes back or whatever might happen, I don't know where to put Joey Savacci next season if he can't get some solid races under his belt. I mean, I can't see him doing a privateer effort, but I don't really know where to put him at this point. One rider that I didn't really talk about, it's Chase Sexton. And Chase Sexton, he started off the season pretty, I mean, really well, actually. He crashed out around 1, and I think he finished like 12th or 13th, I don't remember. And then he came back, and, you know, going into Houston 3, he had a solid outlook. I didn't originally have Chase Sexton down, but he got injured, and I wanted to talk about that for a second just to kind of play devil's advocate. Going into the 2021 season, I had high expectations of Chase Sexton. I didn't pick him for winning the title, but I thought he was going to be the best rookie out of the class, and I thought he was going to get 1 or 2 race wins. I thought he was going to finish top 5 in the points. I had high expectations for Chase Sexton. And so far, I mean, he'd been living up to it, if I'm being completely honest. You know, he was able to go through, and he was out front leading H2, and he crashed out. And he had a gnarly crash, ended up hurting his shoulder, missing the rest of that main H3, and then he's going to miss, I think, the first 2 rounds of Houston 2, or not Houston, of Indianapolis. So I think his plan is to be back by Indy 3, and I just want to see him have a solid rest of his season. So I want to see him go out there. I would like to see him get a race win, but I think that crash is going to have him set back a little bit and like, okay, well, I need to learn more. Because I still truly believe that if he hadn't gotten hurt and he was going to miss a total of 3-4 rounds, I still think he would have been able to finish inside the top 5. But with this being said now, I still don't have him I've got him at a level 1 on the panic scale because he's not in the title fight. HRC probably didn't have him in the title fight, so for him to go out there and learn is going to be even better, and have him prepared for outdoors, so his sophomore season at outdoors can be even better than what it was for his rookie season. And then the last rider I'm going to talk about is Justin Bogle, the number 19. He is sitting 23rd in points right now with a total of 3 points. He didn't start the first 2 mains, and I didn't look hard enough to see if he just didn't qualify in or what had happened, but I went through and he wasn't in either of the point standings for the first 2 rounds. So, and then 3rd round I've got him in 20th, so 3 points. And my panic level is like off the charts for this guy. More so for his health than anything, because he took another gnarly crash at, I think it was round 2, and it's like come on, guy. I want to see him have a healthy season and get through an entire season without getting hurt. He's got to figure something out, because if he can't keep crashing, he's not going to have a ride, and it's going to be more because he's a health risk than he is for, you know, a ride. He's got to have, I mean, at some point you got to put the dilemma in front of you saying, like, do I continue riding? Because honestly, if I'm being 100% honest, I don't know why Bogle's continued to get the ride at Rocky Mountain ATV KTM. He hasn't been able to finish his season healthy, and it's always these silly crashes, and it's like he's getting up slower and slower after every crash, and At that point, it's got me thinking like, well, how many more crashes until he just doesn't get up? So I mean, if I'm Justin Bogle, I need to have a serious assessment of like, is this what I need to do? Do I need to step away from racing because he's hit his head a lot, and I'm more concerned in terms of the panic scale. I'm more concerned about his health and well-being than I am about finishes. Honestly, at this point, he's becoming a little bit of a liability to teams because what crash is it going to be that if he has a big crash, is his career just done because he has a traumatic brain injury or something like that because of the concussions that he's had over the season, over the years. So, again, Justin Bogle seems like a cool dude, but it's kind of like a Trey Kennard situation. He can't seem to keep himself healthy, and at some point you have to walk away from the sport because your health's got to come into play at some point. So, I hope if Justin Bogle's back and he's healthy, I hope he can put together some solid races and keep himself off the ground because the kid's got speed whenever he can go. So, best of luck to him. But that's gonna do it for this video, guys. Thank you all so much. If you watched the 250 PanicREVV analysis and the 451, thank you guys so much. Let me know down in the comments who you're worried about in terms of the season. Let me know if you agree with my list, if you don't agree with my list. Let me know who you've got for the championship. I'm going to say right now I've got Eli Tomac for the championship. 250 East, I've got Jet Lawrence. So let me know down in the comments who you've got for the championship. And also let me know if you guys want to see these more frequently, or my plan right now is to have them at the end of each residency. So I did it at the end of the Houston residency right before the start of the Indianapolis one. And then my plan was to do it at the end of the Indianapolis one right before the beginning of the Orlando Supercross residency, which I think is just 2 races, but I'll probably put Daytona in with that one, so I'll probably try to do it every 3 races, depending on how the residencies work out. But yeah, if you guys want to see that, let me know. If you want to see different types of videos, let me know so I can get these put up for you, so you guys have content to get you through the season while we're waiting for races. Because I mean, you got to admit, bench racing's pretty fun. Going through and talking about this, I like hearing people's different opinions, so definitely let me know what your thoughts are on this specific type of content, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.